Good morning, children, and we are back to our NS class of today about the food chain. In this lesson of animals and their food, you have already covered some parts of their food habits, classification of animals based on their food habits, and adaptation of different animals depending upon their food habits and their relation with other animals and so forth. So, you have come to a conclusion that different animals depend on the other animals and plants, and also the different animals depend on only plants and some depend on other animals for their food. So from this point of view, we can classify the living organism basically into two types as plants and animals. That is, plants are producers since they prepare their own food. That is, some animals, all the living organisms, as you know well, require food to carry on the life processes. What are the different life processes, children? They are respiration, taking in food, that is ingestion, digestion, respiration, reproduction, excretion, and so forth. These are the life processes. So these processes are performed only if you take food and if you get the energy only. You get energy through the food intake. So different organisms take the food in different manner. What is this mannerism of taking the food by different living organisms? We are studying in this part of the lesson today. So you know very well that plants prepare their food by themselves and hence they are called as producers. So living organisms are classified as producers and consumers. Living organisms are classified into two terms. They are producers and consumers. Okay, children. So what are producers? Plants are producers. What are consumers? Animals are consumers. How can you say that plants are producers and animals are consumers? Plants are producers because they prepare their own food. Plants prepare their own food. Okay, how do they prepare their own food? By the process of photosynthesis. By the process of photosynthesis. You know very well. What is photosynthesis? Preparation of food by the plants by using sunlight. In the presence of sunlight, it takes carbon dioxide from the air, water and mineral salts from the soil. Plants prepare their own food. That is starch or glucose. So it is called, so they are called as producers. Since plants prepare their own food, they are called as producers. And animals depend either on plants or other animals for their food. So they are called as consumers. Animals depend on plants or other animals for their food. Isn't it? So they are called as consumers. Hope you have understood, children. So producers, plants are producers. Since they prepare their own food, they are called as producers. They are autotrophs. Since they prepare their own food, they are also called as autotrophs. Since animals depend on plants and other animals for food, they are called as heterotrophs. You know it very well. Now, you'll see that as plants are producers and animals are consumers. Animals are again divided into three types. Consumers are again divided into three types, that is animals. They are primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. You already learned about the classification of the animals based on their food habits as herbivores, carnivores and omnivores, isn't it? So now the primary consumers are herbivores. They depend on only plants for their food. they depend on only plants for their food. They are called as primary consumers. Sometimes these primary consumers may also be the organisms. So that we can say that the herbivores are called as the primary consumers. Insects, rabbits, cows, etc. Cow, buffalo, goat, sheep. Okay. Even grasshoppers like insects, these are primary consumers. So, primary consumers are herbivores. In fact, we can say that they are herbivores. Okay, children. Next, coming to the secondary consumers. Secondary consumers are the consumers which depend either on primary consumers or on plants. Both, they may depend both on producers and also on primary consumers like cat, dog, hen, sparrow, pigeon. These are all secondary consumers and including human beings also. They are secondary consumers. Okay, next coming to the tertiary consumers. Tertiary consumers are completely, they are carnivores. Secondary consumers are carnivores or omnivores. Carnivores are omnivores. Here, tertiary consumers are completely, they are carnivores. They depend on other animals for their food like lion, tiger, cheetah, wolf. So these are all higher animals, eagle, vulture. So they come under this group of tertiary consumers. Okay children, hope you have understood now the classification of the living organisms. Here the consumers are divided into primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers. Primary consumers depend on plant and plant products. Secondary consumers depend on either on plants or animals for their food. Tertiary consumers depend on only animals for their food. So they are flesh-eating animals completely. We can say as carnivores. So this is about the consumers which take their food. Okay children? Next coming to the food chain. So what is food chain? On what basis the food chain is being framed into? So food chain, it is the link between the plants and animals based on their food habits. Food chain. Food chain is the link between plants and animals based on their food habits. Where in ecosystem which consists of both land ecosystem and the terrestrial, that is land means terrestrial and aquatic which means water. So both the ecosystem which comprises both land and water, that is aquatic ecosystem and terrestrial ecosystem, all the organisms living in the different ecosystem, they depend on one another for their food or for their energy requirements. Okay, so this frame in which the link is formed between the plants and animals or between animals and animals based on their food habits, it is called as a food chain, or it can also be said as the relationship between plants and animals. Relationship between plants and animals based on their food habits is called as food chain. Is called as food chain. Food chain is a relationship between the plants and animals based on food habits, or it's a link between the plants and animals based on their food habits. Okay, so food chain normally starts from the plants, that is from the producers, and end in carnivores. Food chain normally starts from the producers. It starts from the producers. As an example, I'll give you now. You can observe carefully. That is, if for example, there is a grass. Grass is eaten by cow. Cow is eaten by lion or tiger. In fact, you can write anything. So here one example I showed you. Grass is the producer. Why it is the producer? Because it takes the energy from the sun and prepares its own food. So energy is taken from the sun. It takes the energy from the sun and prepares its own food. Solar energy is taken by the grass, and it is the energy is being transformed to the consumers. That is, these two are consumers here, isn't it? Cow and lion are consumers because they consume the food from the grass. So it is they are consumers. Here cow is a herbivore since it depends on only plants and plant products for its food. Okay, and lion eats cow. So it is a carnivore. It is a flesh-eating animal. Lion is a flesh-eating animal. It is a carnivore. So here grass is eaten by, arrow mark here, this represents is eaten by. Clear? So grass is eaten by cow. Cow is eaten by lion. So here this is a food chain. This forms a food chain. It's a food chain between the plants and animals. It's producers and consumers. Is it clear, children? So here that is a link that is formed with the help of an arrow. The link is formed for food. For what it is formed? The link is formed for the food. The link between plants and animals for food. Why it is for food? The link between plants and animals for food is called food chain. The chain means the link. Okay. So here the link is, the arrow mark represents is eaten by. Okay, children. So this is the food chain. Likewise, you can write another examples too for the food chain. Like leaves are eaten by goats or sheep. They are eaten by tiger. Isn't it? And next, third example. Likewise, you can say this is a producer, herbivore, carnivore. Producer, herbivore. Goat is a herbivore and tiger is a carnivore. It is a flesh-eating animal, so it is a carnivore. Okay. Another example you can write easily as grains. Grains. They are eaten by, if you take insects. Insects or grass or grains, you can write rat also. Isn't it? Rats. Grains are eaten by rats. Rat is eaten by cat. Cat is eaten by dog. Dog is eaten by fox. Fox is eaten by lion or tiger. Okay. So this, in fact, you can elaborate the link in this form where always the food chain starts in the producer and ends in the carnivores. See, rat is an omnivore. Cat is also, it may be herbivore or omnivore. Okay, dog is also an omnivore. Where fox is a carnivore. Tiger is also a carnivore. It may be. So always food chain starts from producers, that is plants, and ends in carnivores. Okay, children? So that is about the food chain. Hope you can clearly observe this now. Okay? Yes. See, children? Likewise, you can develop the food chains in this manner. Okay? Children, children, as I said you earlier, that the food chain is the link between the plants and animals for the sake of food. It says that who eats whom. It is the link for who eats whom. That is called as a food chain. So it is here, if you see here, the link, that is the chain for food. It tells us that there is an energy flow or the transmission of the nutrients from one that is the group of members to the other group, isn't it? So there is a transfer of nutrients. If you see this picture on the bird, children, you can see that the plants over here take the solar energy, the plants take the solar energy and absorb the water and mineral salts from the soil. This is the water, children. So this is the water and mineral salts from the soil. So this is the groundwater. The roots move through the groundwater and take the water from the soil, and it takes the mineral salts from the soil and solar energy and prepares the food, and hence it is called as a producer. Okay, takes the carbon dioxide from the air, water and mineral salts from the soil and prepares its food through the leaves. So it is a producer. So here these plants or grass or plants are eaten by the insect. Here this is a grasshopper. Okay, this is an insect. In fact, the insects are eaten by the secondary consumer. It forms the primary consumer, where it depends upon the plants only for its food. Then the insects are eaten by the secondary consumers like frogs, dogs, cats and so on. So these are secondary consumers which depend on primary consumers for their food. Next, these secondary consumers are eaten by the tertiary consumer. Here in fact it is a crow. And the crow, it is all the plants and animals, they die after some time, isn't it? So they become rotten. So these are mushrooms. Mushrooms, they are, as I said you, these depend on dead and decayed organic matter for their food. So they form decomposers. They decompose the organic material. So both plants and animals, when they die, they mix in the soil, and these are organic material. This is a dead and decomposed matter are eaten by the mushrooms. In fact, mushrooms keep the environment, or they depend on the dead and decayed matter. They keep the environment clean, and thus the nutrient, and again they supply the nutrients to the soil again. Okay. In fact, again the nutrients are supplied through the water from the roots to the plant, and in turn the plant are eaten by the primary consumers and again the secondary consumers, and the energy is transferred like this from the producers to primary consumers, and primary consumers to secondary consumers, and secondary consumers to tertiary consumers, and finally when they die they are decomposed by the decomposers like mushrooms, and they return the nutrients in the form of nutrients to the soil, and hence as the energy is being recycling, so these decomposers are called as recyclers. Decomposers are called as recyclers. The cycle goes on again and again. So they are called as recyclers. They return the nutrients to the soil again. Nutrients are absorbed by the plants, and again it reaches the soil. From the soil it is absorbed by the plant, and again it reaches the soil in this manner. So decomposers, they return the nutrients to the soil. So they are called as recyclers. Is it clear, children? So this is about the energy flow in a food chain. Energy flow is from producers to primary consumers to secondary consumers to tertiary consumers, and finally then nutrients are again recycled to the soil with the help of the decomposers. Is it clear, children? Draw this picture neatly in your notebooks. Energy flow in a food chain. Now try to answer the questions that is given in your textbook. See the page number 29, children. What is the source of energy in a food chain? Here this is a food chain. Isn't it? So producers. Food chain starts from producers. So what is the source of energy for the producers in the food chain? It is sunlight. Solar energy is the source of energy for the food chain. Next, how does the grasshopper gets its energy? How does the primary consumer here, for example, as I told you, the grasshopper, it gets its energy from the plants, that is producers. Grasshopper gets its energy from the producers by eating grass. Okay. What happens to the crow if the frog is removed from the food chain? What happens? It is an omnivore. It eats other insects and grains also, as it is an omnivore, isn't it? Crow is an omnivore, you know very well. It depends on both the plant products and also insects for its food. So it as it is an omnivore, it depends both on plants and insects for its food. There is no change. Next, what is the role of mushrooms in the given picture? What is the role of mushrooms in the given picture, children? Mushrooms acts as recyclers as it returns the nutrients to the soil. Okay, bacteria, fungi such as mushrooms get energy by the breakdown of the dead plants and animals. All the animals, if they are dead, they get the energy from the dead plants and animals. So they are called as decomposers. They break the complex substances into simple substances that goes into the soil, and so these are used by the plants again. So thus they help in recycling of the nutrients. So they are called as recyclers. Decomposers are called as recyclers. Okay, children? So now they help in recycling the materials between the producers and consumers. Decomposers help in recycling the materials between the producers and consumers. Okay, children? In the next, now we'll move to the animal colonies or with the food web. Okay, what is food web? Now you have seen about the food chain. Now I will tell you about the food web. What is food web? In fact, this is the solar energy. You know well. This is the plants. Plants are eaten by the different animals, isn't it? So they are again in turn this plants products are eaten by cow, again buffalo, isn't it? Goat, sheep, etc. And grasshoppers, not only they are eaten by frogs, they are eaten by lizards. Again they are eaten, lizards are eaten by the frog again, isn't it? Lizards. So plants as they are eaten by them, and the grasshopper is eaten by lizards, and lizards are in turn eaten by frog again, and again frog is eaten by dog or cat, and cat is eaten by fox or dog. Again dog is eaten by fox is eaten by lion or tiger. Like this, there is a continuation process of the food chain. Several chains are formed here, isn't it? Did you understand here? Are you able to visible this here? Frog is eaten by cat, and again this is eaten by dog also. Here dog and cat are eaten by fox. Fox is eaten by lion or tiger. Isn't it? This is the food chain. It forms a web-like arrangement. These all in turn, they are eaten by decomposers. Isn't it? All the animals and all the plants, they are decomposed by the decomposers. So this is several food chains. here several food chains are formed which forms the food web. Okay children, so several food chains form a food web. What is food web? Several food chains form a food web. Once again I tell you the food web children. What is food web? And each and every animal depend on other animal for food or plants for its food. Food web is that it depends, the several animals depend upon single animal for food, or single animal depends upon several animals for its food. That is called as a food web. Food web means several food chains form a food web. Several food chains form a food web. You can see the example on the board children. Now see the food web children. So you cannot say that always food chains will be in a straight line. As you have seen the food chain in grass is eaten by cow, cow is eaten by lion. So it is in a straight line. But we cannot say that always the food chain will be in a straight line. It forms several interconnections like this. So several animals depend on other animals for food, and other animals depend on the same animal for the food too. In fact, if you see this structure, you can easily understand the food web here. This is a green plant children. So mouse depends on the green plants for the grains, and so mouse is eaten by snake. Snake is eaten by kite. Mouse is eaten by owl. Mouse is also eaten by wild cat. So here mouse is eaten by jackal too. Here a single mouse is eaten by different animals here. Okay, rabbit eats grains from the green plant or any products like carrots and so on. And it also is eaten by wild cat. It is eaten by jackal. It is also eaten by lion. Okay, so in fact, snake is eaten by kite, snake is eaten by wild cat also at times. Okay, this is the food web. Okay, hope you have understood this children. So the several interlinks between the food chain forms a food web. So several food chains, in simple manner we can say that several food chains form a food web. So this system of interconnected food chains is called as food web. What is food web? Interconnected food chains. Interconnected food chains form a food web. Interconnected food chains form a food web. Okay children? Next, the animal colonies. What are animal colonies? A group of animals moving together for their food. They mostly from the huge elephants to the tiny ants. They move in colonies in search of their food. They form colonies like zebra, giraffe, and elephants, ants, and also the you can say that elephants, zebra mostly. You can see zebra, giraffe, ants. They form colonies in search of food. In search of food. So they form animal colonies. What is this? We'll see now. What are animal colonies and food? There are many animals that live in colonies. They live in colonies. They live in colonies. From huge elephants to the tiny ants. Ants do a lot of things. Their colony has large ants and forces to work. So ants are worker ants, queen ants, male and female ants. Like that, there is a division of work between the members of the ant colonies. There are mainly workers, soldiers, male and female ants. The workers collect and maintain the food stock in the ants. So what is the ant colony? we will be seeing here. Ant colony, okay? Here the ant colony is divided into workers, soldiers, male and female ants. So here the workers, they mainly collect and maintain the food stock. The soldier ants, they protect them, and the female ants, they participate in the mating with the male, and the female give birth to the next generation, that is they help for reproduction, and the male ants only for they are female or queen ants, and the male ants for mating purpose only. And next here, these are the division of labor. So here there is a work distribution in the ants. So from the ants we can learn the division of labor. One is division of labor, we can learn from the ants, and unity, to be united. You can learn how to be united. Hard work also. You can learn hard work, unity and division of labor from the ants. Okay, this is about the animal colony. Mostly all the animals move in colonies in search of food, and mostly they distribute the food among themselves, and whoever they got the food. This is what we have to learn from the animals. Okay children, hope you have understood the lesson well. In the next class, I'll continue with the question answers part. Okay, try to write the homeworks children today. That is, write about the food chain. Write what is food chain, what is food chain, give 3 examples. Give 3 examples. Secondly, draw the energy flow of food chain. In a food chain, draw energy flow in a food chain, and write down what you learn from ant colonies. Okay children, so this completes your lesson, and hope you understood the lesson well. Write the answers for the questions that is given. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.